Okay. Just a recap, today's class is going to be continuation of the topic of jobs in general. So, but I think this time we will get into a little bit more specifics about each type of a job by description, that is what I said. Just a recap is highlights of yesterday's class is the chemical industry is broadly on 3 segments, which I have listed down here. Manufacturing is easy, is remember is just where we make stuff, whatever the stuff is. EPCM is, in order to make stuff you need a plant. So, those guys, the activities related to designing, constructing, erecting the plant, etc., that series of activities is called EPCM sector. And of course, someone has to creatively decide what the process is, what the process conditions are, and so on like that. So, those fundamental development of a method of converting raw materials into finished product is the technology development segment broadly. The second key point which I mentioned is, it is very unusual for one company to be involved in everything there. Third point is, industry is a word that we generally avoid. Instead you concentrate on companies, because in the same industry there are 3 segments, and in each segment there are enough number of companies, and naturally that brings to that is that there is a competition. And if you are looking for a career, you are going to definitely work for one company, and that company is in competition with other companies in the same segment. So, that is the key light for yesterday's class. Little bit more about competition. All of us know what competition is. One does not have to go to a great definition of what it is and all that. What we know competition is this. But the 2 facets, how it affects in everybody's life and everybody's work life, especially where we are interested is, there is a continuous pressure in lowering the cost. If there is competition is very high, it will be immediately seen in terms of everybody's job in that company. There is a pressure to reduce the cost of making things. There can be another way of handling the competition, which is try to be very different from what your competitors are by designing a product, making a product, or at least convincing the customer that your product is different. It is all in the mind sometimes. What is the difference between one soap and another soap anyway. So, the second approach is, do not get only fixed up on cost reduction, because there is competition. Try to make yourself slightly different compared to your competitors in the minds of the customer, so that he is willing to pay you, first of all buy a product from you, secondly also pay you a slightly higher price compared to the competition, that is the goal. So, these are the 2 ways in which this competition affects everybody in your work life, clear. And this competition exists in all 3 segments. Manufacturing companies compete, and they have to decide whether they are going to take focus A or focus B or both. EPCM companies also compete, that is another thing, because today if you want to build a plant, you have a choice. There are several people who can offer you to build a plant, and you can choose as a customer. So, EPCM companies also go through this competition, where the competition turns out in terms of, for your needs of manufacturing a product, my company will be able to make the best possible plant at the lowest possible price, which is point 1, or your plant will be built in order to have lot of flexibility, so that tomorrow if your raw material changes, your demand changes or whatever happens, your plant will be able to take care of that. So, that is the flexibility that you can bring in. So, you compete in EPCM. Of course, technology makers compete very intensively, which is all related to patents and know-hows and things like that. So, that is the essence of competition. Since competition is the reality of life, it is worthwhile spending some time understanding this, and also particularly not in a very abstract way, how is it going to affect you, your job requirements, your work life, your experiences, both pluses and minuses. It is all impacted on what the company is under pressure. So, that sometimes the unreasonable attitude of a company as an employee or as an outsider, you may be able to appreciate better why is it so, if you understand the situation from the company's point of view in a competitive field. So, I have listed down these 2. This is for discussion. We will take 5 minutes. I will encourage you to open out and speak. I have listed a couple of products here, toothpaste, consumer product. Fluid cracking catalyst is slightly more sophisticated, it is a functional product, right. It is a slightly more technically sophisticated product. Commodity chemical, acetic acid is acetic acid. Then an assembled kind of a product, commercial vehicles, I made a small twist, I differentiated commercial vehicles and passenger cars and two-wheelers. Reasoning being, you will think about probably the end customer is slightly different for all the three, though all of them are under so called automobile sector. So, methanol like acetic acid. These products, if you think for a minute, first of all you must convince yourself there is actually a competition for all of them. Does anybody disagree? And think of, actually use this exercise, think of a product where there is very little competition. Do that as a mind exercise, and if you get something, do let me know, I am keen to know. In fine print I have written about Samsung and microwave ovens. This is a nice story, which is microwave ovens, all of us today it is a sort of standard in any kitchen. The microwave ovens were actually popularized and brought to the market by General Electric. You have heard about this company called General Electric, it is a big time company, presently in a bit of a crisis, but they brought it into the market. The American dream, so called American dream, every house will have a microwave, was kind of initiated by them, and they got into that. Over a period of time, what happened is, for variety of reasons, GE said that I would develop vendors, because it is an equipment, right. So, it has a lot of components into that. So, GE said that competition is becoming slightly more companies were making, GE was of course the market leader, and in order to focus on cost reduction, they decided to look at a vendor, develop the vendor so that he will be able to make some components at a much lower price than what GE themselves were making. They chose Samsung, and within, this is real case history, you can when you get time you can read through this, it's a lot of case histories have been written about this. Within maximum of 10 years, Samsung overtook GE as the largest manufacturer and seller of microwaves. So, this competition is a funny thing. You are trying to reduce cost, you are trying to do some strategy, but that guy is also very intelligent, and tomorrow he can compete with you. So, basic point is, for all products this is the reality. Okay. Now, we will switch to why only talk about manufacturing kind of a jobs. Look at service industry, EPCM industry, some other things I have listed down. You must convince yourself that they actually are like equivalent to EPCM, which means it is not a product that is being sold, it is some system that makes products. That's all. I think all of you will agree that what I have written here, banking is a service. There is no sort of product there. Use accounting services. A lot of firms today, the big 4, big 3 used to be there. They used to do accounting for large number of companies as a service. Legal services, obviously. Engineering services is where EPCM is. You provide engineering services in order to build a plant to meet somebody's requirements. MRO is maintenance organization, which is these aircrafts. There are only 2 large manufacturers of aircrafts in the world, right. All of you know Boeing and Airbus. Now, these are complex machines, so they have to be very carefully maintained, and they train the end user to set up facilities to maintain the aircraft. So, that is a service, and when you do, you can do that for any number of buyers of aircraft. So, let us say if Air India has a maintenance service organization, predominantly they will look after only Air India aircraft, but increasingly there is a tendency to optimize, reduce the cost, that is where the pressure is coming from. If Indigo wants to get their aircraft serviced, it can be offered by Air India also as a service. So, in the service sector they are cooperating, but of course as a service for flying people they may compete. So, it is a bit of a open thing. The point being, competition is all pervasive, that is what I am trying to make. Why are we worried about that is because it is going to affect your jobs. what you are expected to do from the job, the pressures that you will face the job, and the kind of skills that you have to pick up in the jobs. So, that is the point I am spending a few minutes on this slide. Last fine print slide is some names of companies. Food delivery I am skipping because all of us know Swiggy, Zomato. TCS and Infosys made the breakthrough for services for India actually. In several ways, if you see, India became a name that people knew in the world thanks to these two companies. And second, in a very selfish way I look at it is that salaries of engineers went up only because of TCS and Infosys. And before these guys come, when I joined, can you believe what my salary was? You will laugh, so I will not say. So, therefore, in spite of that, today TCS and Infosys are facing competition, and it manifests in several ways. I think yesterday I was talking to some friends who they said, hey, these guys are giving offers, job offers, after that they just withdraw it. TCS. Other names are Uday, which is the German company which I talked about, they have a large India presence. RITES is Railways have a consultancy division, Indian Railways, and that is globally they are operating. So, they provide how to set up railway system is a knowledge. So, they are in the services sector. So, we covered competition is all so it is like second law of thermodynamics, it is everywhere in both manufacturing and services, that I think by and large you are convinced, but do convince yourselves, do not take me, and if you find there is a variation, please raise it with me, I will learn at least. Last part is technology, which is creating processes. This is the most exciting I think for most of you, because our academics mostly deals with the third one. And there is, the first slide I said exciting, challenging, futuristic, all this blah 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 goes on with technology, which is true. But like I said, it is high risk. So, you have to be staying away from this hype, you can choose, but it will also be very clear this technology is the most competitive of all. At least the other two you will have some name, make it out, but in order to be a technology company, it is the toughest job. You can still do it and people do it very successfully, some companies. All you have to be aware is it is so, and therefore, the requirements is also so. Again, I am spending more than required time on this topic, because having a good idea is not technology, it is nice, but having a technology that works reliably, efficiently for the customer's needs is very hard, and it requires very systematic, slow, methodical approach of what we have learnt over a period of time. Can be done, but that is the reality I want to point out. It is not that exciting breakthroughs that is reported in Hindu, that is technology. Okay. Now, look at entry level jobs, which is where we are going to start. Of course, I am also going to relate it to how you can grow, but let us start with the entry level jobs. Now, there are, for engineers, there are two types. You can be technical function, you can get into marketing function also. Both are good, because eventually both manufacturing companies, or if you take EPCM companies, they are selling something, right. Finally, some customer buys, in one case a product, the other case a plant. So, there is some amount of customer interaction, understanding the customer's requirements, tailoring the product, all that goes in. So, therefore, there is a very important marketing function also. And of course, finally, after that order comes through, you have to deliver the expectations in as per agreed specifications. So, that is the technical part. So, manufacturing companies have technical and marketing roles, EPCM companies have technical and marketing roles, and our favorite technology development companies also have marketing and technical roles. I will take it in the last, but let us immediately take more number of examples are in these two. In both this, whether it is technical function or it is marketing function jobs we are talking about, because of the fact of competition all pervasive and all that we said, the link is the focus of your jobs will be on output and cost, easy to remember, OC output and cost. What is output for a manufacturing company? Technical job. let us look at it, manufacturing company, technical job, which means you are basically making stuff. Okay. What is the focus could be on what is output, what is cost. If your company makes toothpaste, how much of toothpaste in a given time that you can churn out with the facilities that you have, fancy names like productivity, whatever you can use it. Basically simply stuff must get out as quickly as possible, of course with correct quality and all that is. Therefore, the hope is that somebody will buy it and therefore the company will make money. Secondly, you should also make stuff in a cost where the customer is willing to buy and pay for it. This is as simple product like toothpaste, and you will know it is not a trivial problem. It is a simple problem, but not trivial. Toothpaste come in this containers, aluminum tubes or sometimes plastic tubes and all that, and you pay for 100 grams of toothpaste. If that 100 grams of toothpaste supposed to have 100 grams declared, if it has only 98 grams, would anybody know? I mean, you can get to know, but normally, but in the packaging order, one of the legal requirements says my product this is 100 grams for example. And if some clever customer actually finds out that one tube is not 100, he can sue your company and get damages. So, now technical guys can't have, I have a cost cutting idea, wherever 100 gram goes, let us make it 99.5. Now, you are a generous guy, I do not want to run this risk, let us be safe and put 101 grams here, this headache I do not want, but you will be able to change the selling price though. So, that 1% out of the company. So, that is the knife edge we are working on a simple example like a toothpaste. Now, talk about fluid cracking catalyst in my list. So, focus on a manufacturing job will be on output, which we now intuitively understand what it is, and cost, which means it should meet the tight limits. Marketing, again same company, manufacturing company, job is not technical, marketing. This guy also has a focus on output and cost. Now, let us think what is output for that job. Yeah, good. Simply put, make customers buy, more number of fellows buy, because you turn around, the production guys are churning it out, it is kind of building up inventories. So, you are under pressure, look around and give it to that. So, very clearly output is a focus, different form of output, cost. If you think through, you will get it. Okay, just to make it quicker, do not accept what I say, but think of that, just to provoke the discussion I will say, you are under pressure to sell, right, your zone, your boss are shouting away saying that what is happening, they get data from customers also, whether it is cooked up or otherwise we do not know, but at least you will be told how the heck the customers are selling when other competitors are selling more and your area is kind of. So, you are under pressure. One way is to go and say, normally we do not directly sell to the end users, right, no company, toothpaste company goes to the FIs and say, would you like to buy some toothpaste from me and all that. They find some system, supply chain or whatever you call. So, there is a dealer, distributor, some fellow will be there, bulk fellow who will buy it from you, and then he will then in turn do that. So, you will have to figure out these guys and then try to push product onto him. One of the ways of doing is, and it is very common, that Acha, if you buy 200 cartons from me, I will offer you a 1% discount, but that only if you buy 200 cartons. So, link your output to something that entices that fellow to buy. Now, that guy thinks, okay, selling price is selling price anyway to the customer. If this fellow gives me at a slightly lower price, if I buy more, he takes a calculated risk and says, shallow, take, I will get some money. You can, sales can be increased. And in fact, it is the commonest technique of increasing the sales, at least attempting to increase the sales is to offer discount to that. But then the implication of that is you will achieve probably output at least for a short period of time, against which the cost to the company indirectly has gone up, just because you reduce the selling price indirectly, which is same as cost going up like that. So, this is for a silly example like manufacturing company making a well known product, but the logic is the same for all manufacturing companies, all products. Now, we will switch to entry level jobs, not manufacturing, EPCM, where if you recall EPCM is building plants that makes stuff. What plant shall we decide? Example, sulfuric acid plant. Sulfuric acid, simplest technology, right? Sulfur burn sulfur dioxide, catalytic conversion, SO3, H2SO4 product liquid. So, your company is an EPCM company that is building sulfuric acid plants. So, technical jobs, nature of the job will be, hey, I got a customer who wants to build a 200 tons per day sulfuric acid plant at Vashi near Bombay. He is asking what is the price. So, the technical guys have to sit, work it out to build a plant in Vashi near Bombay, sulfuric acid, assumption being sulfuric acid starting with sulfur. You have to define the raw material also, because it can be made from variety of things. So, and then say how much capacity he wants, 100 tons, 200 tons, 300. Why does he say 200 tons? Supposing will he accept 250? All that you have to work out and actually design, do. All that starts from raw material sulfur to sulfuric acid. You have to think through, design, get an estimate of how it will be to build it, and it will take 2 years, 2.5 years to build it. So, during that period lot of uncertainties can happen, you have to figure that out and then go back and tell your marketing colleague, you can go and tell this customer at this price more or less plus or you keep some margin here and then say this is the price in which we can offer. Focus here is output, which means no miss out. You are guaranteed to give the plant, tomorrow one item is missed out means, so you have to do it. So, automatically the cost comes into the picture. This is EPCM technical, EPCM marketing job. Your role output will be find some guys who want to buy sulfuric acid plant from you or PVC plant from you, because nobody makes only one plant, right. EPCM companies is not stuck upon one, they make. Find guys who want to build plants, find them. So, focus is on output and cost is try to give just sufficient that the purpose meets, but not it misses out anything. So, there is a marketing pressure on cost also, and this is universal. So, with these two trivial examples of manufacturing and EPCM, technical jobs and marketing jobs, we have come to some clarity that it all starts from the fact that the basic universe is competitive, and therefore, the implication is the jobs that you will be asked to do, now you have to look at it under this assumption, what therefore happens to me when I take up a job in any of these areas, right. For which let us now go to a deeper dive into what are the jobs in manufacturing, entry level jobs. So, manufacturing typically is you make products at a location, and usually the good starting point will be it starts from the raw material to finished product, obvious, right, but you must have a flow diagram. Otherwise, it remains vague in the mind. If I just in 1 second I passed on saying sulfuric acid plant starts with sulfur as raw material and finally sulfuric acid comes out, does not mean anything. In one way it conveys a bit of information, but for engineering purposes a lot more is required. So, you have to have a toolbox which will help you to list out the entire setup of activities. I will come to that in a minute. So, in the manufacturing step what happened is somebody has built it for you. So, let us start from that point, then we will go back to EPCM. You walk into a place, this is sulfuric acid plant. So, everything is set up, is there ready to run. Usually the practice in companies is to divide this big plant into smaller sections on some basis, usually geographical, so that you can go around the plant. Sometimes it can be different basis. So, but what the basis is very clear, when you walk in you will know what the basis is. They will have several sections, section, but they all sections are all integrated together to get the final plant out of it. So, you will typically in your entry level jobs land up as a person who is responsible for one section typically. You may go through a training period and all that I am skipping, because you should know what it is. It is very hard. People, remember in the first class they said there is a complaint about people are not industry ready. Which industry you will be ready at the end of 4 years of BTech again? After 40 years of my life I am not ready, industry ready with a handful of industries. So, that is not the right way of explaining, but I think the anxiety is, even if you come into my plant, you are not trying to understand what I want. That is how we should interpret this industry ready, otherwise don't get this hype goes on. You walk into ICCR for example, every day one seminar is going on, fellows are coming with tie and all that. We wish academia should produce industry ready people and all that, and these guys are all saying, I think you should understand what technology is first of all, and it goes on for last so many years. What is meant is, when you walk into a situation where you have taken a job, do you understand what it takes to do the job? That is industry ready. Okay, so, with this in manufacturing, when you walk in, I was just saying, you will walk in and be told after due training and all that, this section you are responsible. Responsible for what? Previous slide. Output, cost. Simple. Of course, other things like safety, quality goes without saying. These are legal requirements, there is no compromise. Now, bigger companies may have many plants at different locations. So, with this, let us go to, this is how it looks like, typical organization chart. There will be a section of the plant and you are the boss. That is your starting job. What you will be asked to do is, for that section you are responsible for two things: output of that section, cost of that section, and like that there are several sections. There will be a boss for you who is a production head, typically his name is production head, who takes care of the larger unit. You are responsible for one part. So, this itself gives you an idea about what is likely to be the career progression. If you do well in this, then you will have a larger area of operations. I want you to concentrate on the line below, because that is forgotten. Jobs are, there are a number of jobs. We are talking about technical kind of a job, right. Even for that, we are dependent as engineers on a large number of others. Operators, typically operators are not with engineering background, they come with chemistry background. If it is a chemical plant, they come with chemistry background. Sometimes they may just have school final and come, but they are also going to work in the same plant like you. So, if your goal is output and cost, how will you get it done? One is what you carry here, which I assure you that already as of now you have it, and I will tell you how it is so as we go through the case studies. Second, which is probably you have not experienced, is how to make use of people like operators, because look at their life. Your career, I asked you to write that assignment, I am interested to see as you turn in, but I can typically imagine a person says, I joined company X in 2024, I retired from that company in 2060. I do not expect to see any of you. There is a large population, however, called operators who do that. My dad did that. He joined one organization, retired from that organization. So, it is a reality of life for people, and they are comfortable with that choice. It is their life, their choice, but you have to accept the fact. Therefore, there will be also people of that expectations and their qualifications, like I said, is not an engineer, but they have a lot of contribution to make in your goal of output and cost, because they are 24/7 on that damn thing. You can at best be, we are all expected to work for 8 hours anyway, 5 days a week, but sometimes we stay back 8 hours, 10 hours you will work. These guys 24 hours, of course they do not work for 24 hours, they come in shifts. So, for the same kind of a operator job there are 3 guys, somebody they rotate from morning to evening, they are constantly watching that stuff. By watching they are taking a lot of input and learning as it happens. So, this is a real life chemistry playing out, engineering playing out. If you are this and ability to pick up data on the experience of your colleagues called operators, then you can do the job to output cost in a much better manner. So, that is the purpose of the slide. Career growth, let us think of you as you are now section, you can go from one section to another section, get a full understanding of what the whole thing happens. Actually companies rotate, they do job rotation, they keep you for that amount of time where you have to really gain some knowledge and hopefully you also contribute some improvements, at least do not make a mess, but not, they do not want you to get stuck to that one section head job for too long a period of time. Companies are very aware because they are taking highly talented people, they do not want, because they have operators anyway to keep things going. So, they will rotate you from one place to another place, so that you get a full exposure end to end that is happening. After a couple of passage of time, you will get into the next position, which is for the entire sections you are responsible for cost and output. Of course, for each section there is a guy who is also cost output guy, but there are 4 or 5 guys like that, let us say. You have to network with them, which means the other skill apart from your this, you have now got plus experience, which is today when you come into a new job you may not have, but after that time you have got that experience of what is experience is checking out theory with practice, and usually they are not opposite of each other, cannot be, but there is a theory part, there is a practical part, you have to experience it. So, if you have both together, then you become a much better informed person in taking judgment. So, you become production head. Then after some time what happens is that this production of a, let us say a process, let us say refinery, I will go for a bigger complex things. Okay. Refinery has got distillation columns for making n number of products, then there is a vacuum distillation column for making further product, there is a fluid cracking catalyst to make an upgrade from high boilers to low boilers, and there can be polymerization reaction. So, there is a variety of products going through that. That is called a plant manager, that means he is kind of a location boss, whatever happens to the location he is the head. So, you drift into that. Of course, by being production head of one unit, production head of another unit and all that, you can then become the overall. Of course, finally you become the head of operations. If there are multiple locations of your company, you go, but the logic is very clear, right. In this chart, the other thing that is important is this yellow markers I have been focusing on jobs, manufacturing, technical, that is what we are in, just keep that in mind, job, manufacturing. Another technical green I have shown, this is some companies what they do, they just split the job of this responsibility of a section cost output into somebody who is immediately engaged with the problems and somebody who is slightly relaxed, he is not immediately engaged with the problem, but he is a slightly longer period of time. For example, some typical study has to be done, a new way of doing things in a running plant. I am not talking about technology and all that, forget technology, it is a running plant, you are there ensuring output and cost. Even then if you find there is a slightly better way of doing things comes or a slightly unusual problem comes. So, it is said that if you have another person who is looking at it with a little more time, etc., it might help. There are different practices, that function is called technical, but some companies do not do like that, they just combine both. They say why should I split the job, after all this guy is responsible, let him also do it, he is a clever guy, if he wants some help, assistance, etc., we will give. So, there are views, but the difference being one is immediate short term here and now, the other is slightly long term. Finally, of course, we are continuing about career path, this is operations head who controls the entire locations, several including locations in India, locations abroad of that company can be there. Then finally, he becomes the big boss. Now, he can go and talk in seminars. Okay. and the other functions I have shown here. This will be in Moodle. So, just concentrate on the logic and take notes only those points that trigger you, do not worry about copying it. Whatever strikes you, it is unique for you, just you make a note and then let us discuss the rest of the functions I have shown. This is again about technical versus production. Some companies, historical reasons into doing and supporting, they call it as. Doing fellow is got, he is actually the person whose instructions are to be obeyed, he is the section head. You just, in fact there is a common saying, you can be the CEO of a company, you walk into a plant and a section, what the section boss says you better obey, because he knows the pulse of the plant at that moment what is going on. So, bullshit will not work. Just to make that hierarchy is very different from knowledge is very different. So, some people have said that doing is the fellow who has got ultimate go ahead, acha theek hai, let us do like this, that, and there may be somebody else who is studying, kind of analyzing, coming out with alternatives, supporting, that is technical, that is what they said. Such activities like audit, periodically you have to check things are happening, quality audit, some small debottlenecking, which means by and large everything is the same, you are trying to squeeze some extra output from that plant, that is called debottlenecking. Some environmental reporting has to be done. So, we concentrate only on the main product, what about the byproduct or effluent or whatever, you may have to collect some information and things like that. And some small projects of improvements, whether for slight energy efficiency increase, some little projects, this kind of things used to be classified under technical, and one can rotate between the two. Sometimes you can do this job, if your company says there is a so called supporting role, there is a main role, you can rotate between the two depending on your inclination. In some companies it is all combined together, you do both. Now, what does it therefore take? Job's description, this is the key point. For that job, what is the description is? Section head, which is the entry level job, main output cost is by compliance and carrying out of systems as they exist, because all companies have a way of doing things. So, generally they expect you better follow whatever you are told, ensure that things are happening, because this has worked in the past, as clear as that. It is not to say that you shall not think and come out with better idea, that is not, some people do, but that is not the purpose, at least for top management. But your main focus will be, because you are also new, you are kind of getting into the job, you will get to know first of all what is to be done by manuals, procedures, and ensure whether those procedures are actually being done. If not, why not? Maybe the procedure itself is not possible to do, then you can go and do one way, or over a period of time you may come out with a slightly better procedure, all that. So, typically it takes about 5 years, 0 to 5, that is the kind of a job you will be doing. Your focus summary will be on cost and output, but how you will do will be basically by looking at what is happening, understanding it first of all thoroughly, does it make sense with respect to our theoretical knowledge, and then if there are some deviations, reporting to your boss, and that sort of a thing you will do. So, this is the period of great learning, but you may not have great opportunities for contribution. We should be patient, that is the way it is. It may be in some rare cases you are one of those, on the first week of joining the company you have come out with a breakthrough, yay, like that, possible, but unlikely, at least in a well run company, because like this there are hundreds of bright guys have gone before. Okay. So, that is 0 to 5. Then with the time you progress, and then the requirements I have listed down. For example, it will mean that instead of one particular item you should be knowing about large number of items, like that scope will become bigger and bigger, but this is no excuse to drop the focus on one item. This is the point I mentioned in one lecture. You become a senior guy in the company, it is a pity if you say I forgot my fundamentals. You might have forgotten the polar coordinates, you can read a book, but what that polar coordinate conveys to you, that you cannot afford to forget. It has been happening because people had a nice time, but no longer, I trust me, it no longer, you just have to be right on top of your technical ability all throughout your career. Okay. Switch EPCM. Here what is this workflow? In the manufacturing, the workflow is raw material for a given plant to finished product. Here workflow is preparing a detailed blueprint for a plant within quote, based on the type of raw material and for a location told by the customer. So, you are putting together this complex thing together. One of the job will be, after you design, you also have to buy that component and construct it at the site, because that fellow pays you for coming and setting up here. So, procurement is a interesting thing. In fact, in manufacturing also there is a procurement activity. Arundhati may say that is a very important role, because cost is not only by making things, by sourcing correct materials also you can reduce the cost, and that is requires technical understanding. It is not that kitna deta hai, that is very, if the other fellow is very clever, he can pull over you. So, if you are very good in your subject matter, you can also have a career option in like marketing. You can also go for reverse of marketing is buying. So, procurement is also very important. In EPCM, procurement is a very key item, because nothing that the EPCM company is finally offering to the customer is made by them. Like cars, you take Tata Motors, not every component of Tata Motors is made by Tata Motors anyway, right? Some they make some. So, they have to have ability to interact with lot of people who are good in their own fields. So, that is the second part of the activity. And of course, finally, you have to put all of them together, run it and show to the customer, acha, now I am ready, you are satisfied, now you can take over, give me money. So, that is the workflow of EPCM. Here again, if you know cost, we have discussed that, and output will be focused. This is how the organizational structure is. And this time I have made a switch to come from top to bottom. This is the big boss, he has got this so called operations department, marketing, finance, blah blah blah. In operations, there is a split of engineering. This is a key slide, so watch it carefully. Engineering, project management, construction, safety and training. Let us take 1, 2 and 3 first. 4 and 5 by and large you know. 1, 2 and 3, the difference is what? Engineering is guys who work mostly in desk, computer, design systems, etc. So, they think, make the blueprint, literally blueprint, that is engineering part. Project management is the guys who are front ending the customer. Customer periodically, I gave you what happened, kya hai? So, you should know what is happening, whether it is in the engineering phase, whether it is in the procurement phase, whether it is in the construction phase, what is happening with respect to time, is there any problem, everything you have to be customer facing there. So, the project management group acts like the translator between the real requirements of the customer and the engineering group, which is engineering it. So, it is, this itself gives you an indication about the kind of expectations from the job in engineering and in project management. Construction is the guys who are not in the office, they are there where I think some Timbuktu, the nearest chai shop is 20 kilometers away or wherever it is. Summers go up to 45 degrees and winters are bitingly cold, dust and fumes and whatever. In that environment and with people, you are expected to build world class plants, really, that is construction. One classic example of construction company is L&T, challenging environment, underwater, under sea, high, whatever. So, that is 3 kinds of, the operation boss is common for all the 3. That is how the thing goes. Now, I will come from bottom up.
What is the role of application
In this slide, previous.
What is the role of application engineers? Like,
Which slide are you talking about?
no,
In general,
yeah.
can you hold on for a minute? I will finish this, then meet me, I will explain, because later on it is coming here.
In this slide, the safety part, why would these guys require safety?
Why role at all, right? Because lot of accidents happen during the construction. You have open the newspaper now, metro is constructing, dodong, it fell on people like that. Somebody gets buried, electrocuted. Because the work of creating a plant, starting point is the blueprint of engineering. but people are going to put it all together, right. Some fellow wants to weld this and this together. If he makes some misunderstanding, is it serious? So, safety is one person who understands all the people who are working in the site, their role, what jobs are allotted to them, how they are going to do the job in minute detail. Today as a safety guy in a site, I have handled that role. I will know in my site today 450 guys have walked in the gate at morning 8 o'clock. X numbers are going to be in excavating at that place. Y fellows are climbing up and making these bars connecting together. Some chaps are welding on this, some fellows are carrying pipes and putting it here like that. Then you will know what is the risk that each one of them is likely to face, and is your working conditions safe enough. If the fellow is, some fellow comes like this, also you are responsible. So, that is the purpose of the safety. It is 10:46, already we are 1 minute over. Can I just take this last slide and then we will continue in the next class, okay. And remind me about that application engineer. So, this is how start with an engineer, then there will be here also there is a section 4 or 5 engineers working together and so on, like there is a hierarchy on this. Point is, this is how the project, it is going to be there in Moodle, so I can get through that. This is the site organization. There is a construction engineer. Here apart from chemical engineers, you will notice there are a lot of other engineers are coming to the play. So, they will be in engineering office, they will also be at the site. Last slide for this. Job requirements are, take one portion which is let us say engineering at home office, where means you are not out in that 45 degrees Celsius, you are in a place in Tidal Park for example. So, bachelor's degree, but if you recall last class, your expectations of knowing your subject is little more compared to a guy who chooses a manufacturing operations for the reasons that I mentioned there. And the tool that he should be very clear is knowing the subject of thermodynamics. I know there are 3 laws of thermodynamics, you can, that is just basic, but you should know something called process and instrumentation diagram. I do not know how many of you have heard about it, next class is going to be that. So, like that there are some set of requirements, you can go through this. I will not, this I will towards the end of the thing I will come back for technology operations. Now, this is the self study for you to do that, not an assignment, not grading, nothing, just for your interest. I suggest what you do, you check with our placement office, you have some contacts, find out what kind of a typical job profiles have been people are coming to look for last whatever time they have. You will have some idea, they will give you some problem. Read it and then compare to what I have been yapping away in this class, so that you will convince yourself what I say is actually truthful or not. So, I am offering you a chance to come back and tell me, boss, what you have to do, but seriously you have to do this work. You have to go and look for some job profiles, what people have come for, read it, read through this entire slides, does it make sense between the two. You have to give some allowance, lot of hype will come, marketing na. We are the 21st century's growing company with focus on human resources and elevating the mankind and all that will come. Please go through that, but try to find out arey mera kya karna hai. Do that and check out and tell me. Second thing what I do ask you to do, this is there is no time frame, so you can do it over a period, but do it continuously. Check out some of your seniors, friends, colleagues who have passed out, who are actually working in any company. Just chat with them and the people will then ready to open out and tell you, arey yaar, what people are ready to speak. So, talk to them and figure out what is that they are actually asked to do, and go back to my notes and see whether it makes sense. Okay, these two over a period of time you do that. So, that is all for class. Thank you for staying back a little longer, and we meet on Monday.